Hi, I'm Scott Shetler, and welcome to Strength and Health TV. Strength and Health TV is the video blog series that I'm starting to focus on topics related to strength training and fitness and other aspects of the health and fitness industry. For those of you who don't know me, I've been in the health and fitness industry for over 17 years now, and I'm the owner of the Atlanta-based private training center, Extreme Performance Training Systems. Here at EPTS, I train everybody from high-level athletes all the way to motivated fitness enthusiasts and everybody in between. Strength and Health TV is a project that I wanted to start where I could reach out and share some of my ideas on training, as well as things related to the health and fitness industry with people who follow my blog. I've been doing some writing things for a while now, and I've guest written for other blogs and appeared on certain podcasts and stuff like that. And I thought it was time, based on all the feedback that I was getting and a lot of questions that I was getting, that I started my own video series where I can address some of these topics in kind of my environment. So for this first episode, since I named the video blog Strength and Health, I wanted to focus on the why Strength and Health. There was a book that I read by a old-time physical culturist named George the Russian Lion Hackenschmidt. And in the book, he made the statement, health can never be divorced from strength. And if you look at what they did back around the turn of the century in this movement that was referred to as physical culture, it's a little bit different than the approach that we take to health and fitness and training nowadays. And I think as things became more and more specialized and we saw divisions kind of popping up in the health and fitness industry, that's where the idea that strength and health got pulled apart started to happen. No longer were people focused on becoming strong, becoming healthy, and just kind of focusing on total human development. Now we're seeing a lot more specialization. You even have individual strength sports like strongman competition, weightlifting, or what's often referred to as Olympic style weightlifting. You have powerlifting. You even have things like kettlebell sport, which is kind of a fringe weightlifting type sport, and you've got bodybuilding and other physique competitions. And granted, a lot of these disciplines do cross-train a little bit. Obviously bodybuilders lift with weights to build their physiques and stuff like that. But the main focus is the development of their physique. Powerlifters and weightlifters, strongmen, their focus is on just being as strong as possible in the movements that they compete in. And unfortunately, with all these various disciplines, one of the things that gets sacrificed is health in the long run. I don't think anybody would disagree with the fact that intense specialization in any sport isn't exactly healthy. But I think, on the outside looking in, if we're just people who participate at a lower level than, say, a world champion or a national champion or somebody who's very, high level in sports, a different approach needs to be taken. I'm not going to argue that athletes don't need specialization. They do. That's the only way that they can be the best and win, at their events and do the best at the sports that they're participating in. But ultimately, I think that we have to consider health long term. And how can we integrate all of these practices to be totally healthy? And one of the things that I tried to address in my book, Abundant Health, Fitness for the Mind, Body, Spirit, was bringing back this idea of physical culture and applying it to those of us who want to lead healthier, more fulfilling lives. And it just doesn't have to pertain to physical development. I know so many people where they're just so focused on physical development, external development, and they're never happy, they're never satisfied, they're never lean enough, they're never big enough, they're never strong enough. And I think one of the things that's missing is oftentimes people don't kind of go inside and do some soul searching or some self-analysis and develop themselves more holistically. And I think that if you do that, if you tend to focus on things like your health, the health of your body, the health of your organs, just your mental health, learning how to calm down and be quiet and not be so distracted with everything that you have going on, some good things can happen. And to share a personal story, I decided to do this myself back in I think it was about 2010, 2011 is when I really started to consider making some changes. I didn't like where I was going physically. I was just focused on powerlifting and being as big and strong as I possibly could be. And unfortunately, what I was sacrificing in the process was my health. And I knew that I didn't want to be that way. And here I was working with people, telling them to do things to improve their health, and I wasn't exactly an example of it. So for me, it began with taking a step back, looking at what I was doing, looking at where I wanted to be, and realizing that what I was doing isn't going to get me there. So I revamped the way that I ate. I changed my approach to training. I actually backed off on the stress and the heavy weights that I was exposing to myself. I still continued to lift weights and continue to stay to lift weights, but I added other practices like meditation. I started studying the internal martial art Tai Chi Chuan, Qigong. I started to kind of round out my personal development, and what I found was I became much healthier. In fact, after making some of these lifestyle changes, I remember going into the doctor for my annual physical, and that was the first time that everything checked out perfectly. And prior to that, my cholesterol was high, my triglycerides were high. I think the only good thing I had was high HDL, the healthy cholesterol. My LDL was high, but the markers weren't good, and here I was in my mid-30s, and my doctor's already talking about cholesterol meds and stuff like that, and I wasn't having any of that. But after I changed my diet to a plant-based diet, I started balancing out my physical training with internal martial arts practice and meditation, learning how to breathe properly and things like that, and just how to calm down a little bit. My health improved dramatically, and it didn't really take that long. And the funny thing that happened was, physically, my body began to develop much better. I was leaner. I wasn't carrying around so much body fat. I dropped like 50 pounds in about 4 months. I actually wrote about that in Abundant Health, as well as some articles on my blog on my website at scottshetler.com. You can find that as well. My personal story of that change that I went through. So by doing that myself, I realized that this is something that a lot of people are searching for as we get into the later stages of our life, being just big and jacked and ripped and super strong. That starts to become less and less important. I think people start to focus on longer term health, and that doesn't mean that we can't get stronger. In fact, I encourage strength development and physical development, but I think that taking an approach, a little bit more holistic of an approach, is going to be much better in the long run when we're talking about longevity and health and higher quality of life as we get older. It's something that you tend not to think about when you're younger, but once you start getting into your middle, late 30s, early 40s, you start considering different things. So that is why I decided to focus this video blog on strength and health and kind of bringing the two back together. Now, I do plan to get into other topics, maybe some business development, as I am a business owner in the fitness industry. I do get a lot of questions about that. We'll certainly talk about strength training and fitness practices. We'll talk about, maybe athletic training and things like that. I've got plenty of guests that I plan on having on the show and doing interviews with. So it should be really cool. We'll, open up to a wide variety of different topics, all related to the strength and fitness training industry. But one of the themes that I tend to keep coming back to is how to integrate holistic development, how to integrate health with all this, because I don't think that putting all your focus into just one goal is always a good thing. Now, granted, if you're an athlete performing at a high level, that's a different story. But there's going to be a point where your competitive days are done and you have to look at regaining your health. So, things that you can do to help balance out some of the drawbacks or downsides of just throwing yourself full on into high levels of competition. It's things that can be addressed early on, and then as you transition out of that competitive arena back into more of a normal lifestyle, how can you continue to be strong but to be healthy and to have higher levels of fitness and vitality. So those are some of the recurring themes that I'll be sure to circle back to periodically. But again, for this first episode, I just kind of wanted to address the why strength and health. And I think a good place to cut this off would be to share a quote or a comment from Steve Jeck. Now, if you don't know Steve Jeck, You haven't been around the Iron Game long. He's a columnist for Milo magazine, and a lot of his writings can be found on ironmind.com, which is a fantastic website and resource. It's ironmind.com, and he's got a series of short posts under his From the Quarry section on ironmind.com. And Steve was a competitive thrower in college, and he continued throwing and I think participating in Highland Games, but one of the things that he really got involved in was stone lifting, and he's written some fantastic books about stone lifting and kind of the trials and tribulations of pursuing that hobby, and it's pretty awesome. But Steve often references the founding fathers of the physical culture movement in his writings, and it's pretty cool because here's a guy who's obviously just as much a thinker as he is a lifter, and he's a brilliant guy, and I strongly suggest you checking out some of his books that he's written and some of the posts that he's made on ironmind.com. But in one of his articles that I read, he presented this quote by Pythagoras, and the quote goes, "Choose rather to be strong of soul than strong of body." And his response to that was, he wasn't saying that Pythagoras thought training the body was a bad idea. In fact, he was a teacher to Milo. So obviously physical training was okay as far as Pythagoras was concerned. But Steve's take on this is pretty awesome, and I think this is very applicable to the idea of strength and health, and a great way to finish this first episode. Steve said in response to that quote, "Those who prize the soul over the body will never be disappointed, while those who prize the body over the soul will never be satisfied." So think about that quote and where you see that related to. I can think of a bunch of muscle megs that you can go pick up off the fitness stand, and that quote is very applicable. When you look at how things like sports supplements and such are marketed nowadays in programs, it's all about body development, physical development. And the thing is, if we just focus on that, we'll never be big enough, we'll never be strong enough, we'll never be lean enough. But if you focus on your internal development, you focus on the mind and the spirit as well as the body, you'll never be disappointed with the progress you make, with the things that you encounter in your life, and everything that you do will be much more rewarding as a result. So that wraps up our first episode on Strength and Health TV. I hope you enjoyed it. And if there are any topics that you would like me to address in future episodes, please leave them in the comment section on this under this video, or you can email me at scott@extreme-fitness.org. I'll leave all my information in the down in the information section of this video. So please feel free to email me. Tell me if you like the direction that this is going, if you've got any comments, any feedback. I'm open to everything. So hopefully you'll continue to check out the episodes, and hope you enjoyed this first one. And be healthy and stay strong. Thanks a lot.